Good evening. I'm calling to order the Columbia County Board of Commissioners, June 17th, 2025 meeting to order. Asking the Vice Chairman Couch to open us with invocation, please.
Thank you. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day and for this time together to conduct the county's business. Lord, we ask that you place a special hedge of protection around our sheriff's officers, firefighters, and EMS workers. Lord, be with us now as we work through these agenda items and help us to do all things in your will. In your most holy and precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show we have a full quorum of commissioners. Commissioners, you have the minutes from the June 3rd, 2025 meeting. Your packet, if you've had a chance to review them, I'll accept the motion to do so.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries. Special recognition on here, but is there a special recognition?
No, sir.
On to the consent agenda. Commissioners, you have the consent agenda in front of you. The items on this agenda have been through the necessary committee and have received the necessary votes to be placed on this agenda. So if they still meet with your approval, I'll accept one motion to approve them all.
Chairman, I make a motion to accept all of the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. On to the debate. I believe this Kimberly Yantz. He has to speak. First item on the debate agenda. Would please state your name and address for the record and take 5 minutes.
Sure. My name is Kimberly Yantz, and my address is 3914 Casa Rosa Avenue. I live in the Arrowhead subdivision right beside where Parker's Kitchen is going to be coming in. I live at the end of the street where on Washington Road is the Sherwin-Williams. So I'm right there, kind of near Washington Road. Comes down Casa Linda and comes into Casa Rosa. Right, and my driveway is right there. I'm concerned about the traffic that's coming through our neighborhood already, and Parker's Kitchen's not even there yet. Because I live right there where the street comes down, I can sit in my living room every morning and I watch the guys go to Sherwin-Williams to pick up their paint for the day, or in the afternoon pick up their paint for tomorrow. So there's a lot of traffic that comes through our neighborhood because they want to avoid that light at Washington Road, that bad intersection. When we had Walgreens there, we had traffic that came down through from Walgreens. Part of the problem is twofold. One is they treat the streets they come on like they're trash cans. I mean, in my yard, I'm constantly picking up liquor bottles, soda bottles, fast food wrappers. They come around that curve and it somehow says, well, let's throw it in her yard. But that's not my biggest problem. The biggest problem is they treat it like a racetrack. They come flying through there. We've got animals, people walking animals, and children, and people backing out of their driveways. That's our home. That's where we live. And so to see it go from the Walgreens property, which had traffic that will pale in comparison to the Parker Kitchen property. We're going to have so much traffic down there, we're going to have to put yellow lines on the streets. Y'all can kind of, I don't know if you can see where I'm talking about or not on your map. Yeah, you can see where Casa Linda comes right down to Casa Rosa. Well, it comes down Caribbean to Casa.
Back up, somebody.
One of the things that when I was talking with the Planning and Zoning Commission that I asked for was if they would just close the road at Parker's Kitchen that comes out of the back of Parker's Kitchen, because it only comes down into our neighborhood. I mean, that does take you back up to Washington Road, but it's the same problem trying to get out there. So what they do is they just come race through the neighborhood to get to where they want to go to get out of the neighborhood, to get onto Columbia Road or to get onto Washington Road, and it's convenient. They asked at that meeting, well, they asked Parker's Kitchen, would you be willing to close that road? And they said, well, no, which tells me they're planning on using it to divert their traffic down into our neighborhood. They did agree, because I was saying, there's 18-wheelers, the Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, they're all going to be delivering to Parker's Kitchen on a real regular basis. And they said, well, we'll put up bars where 18-wheelers can't get. But that doesn't keep other service trucks coming through. That doesn't keep all the people who are coming to get gas and whatever from coming through. And so what was a sleepy little neighborhood is fast becoming a freeway. Cars, cars, cars. I know it's difficult to turn right out of Parker's Kitchen, to turn left out of Parker's Kitchen if you're trying to turn left and get on Washington Road. But that shouldn't be our neighborhood's problem. That should not be for us to solve. I found very funny in a strange way, one of the businesses in the shopping center that's coming down Bobby Jones Expressway, there's a professional person over there who gives her patients maps as they leave her business on how to come through our neighborhood to get to Columbia Road and Washington Road, so they don't have to deal with that intersection. It's that bad. She has a rack on the wall that has the maps in it, and her people are instructed to do that. One of the things that when I spoke to Planning and Zoning, I said, can we please, on that road where that little road comes out, can we please just put a cul-de-sac that stops traffic behind where the businesses end? And they said, well, problem with that would be you would have to do it on all the streets, and you really wouldn't. The only other thing you would need to do is put up some kind of a barrier right there where the children's place is, that emergency care center. Right next door to it, it was built as a convenience store, turned into an audio shop, and now I'm not even sure what it is. A fence was put right there, then people couldn't come through their parking lot.
This is a public road, Matt.
No, it's a drive.
Caribbean is,
Yeah, the part that she's speaking of, section right here, it's privately owned.
I'm talking about the other side. The part that,
Draw on the map. You can touch the screen and
let
draw.
me see, where am I?
Can you go back to the other?
Let me see where I am.
Zoom in on that.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Washington Road?
Up top.
It's so big I can't see.
This is Washington up here.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bobby Jones there on the right, and then
Washington.
Reed.
Make it a little smaller, so I can't get to what I need. There we go, there we go. Okay, coming down Caribbean on the other side, this 306 and 906,
Touch the screen, it'll put marks for us.
okay. Right here.
Mhm.
That's the children's place at, what's that, 3910, and then the Dock in the Box and the convenience store place. If there was a fence put that came out of their driveway on that side, then when people came out of this road right here that's coming down into here, they couldn't get to in, and there was a cul-de-sac put here. The business could still get in and out. I mean, the businesses could still be there, but their traffic would be coming in the front of their buildings. Both of them have openings coming off of Washington Road to
Back
go
up to
in.
the other picture that, oh, not that. Forward.
There we go.
There you go.
You're asking for us to cut off Carib Drive
Right.
just past their entrance.
Yes.
Well, a similar solution to that, ma'am, wouldn't it be maybe a right-in, right-out only? There for them? How about that?
Because people are going to turn the wrong way and come in. I mean,
Well, no, it would have an island. It would be a directed right in, right out. So nobody's going to come left out of there up into your neighborhood, is my point. If we were to require a right in, right out only at that exit, they could only go to the right and out to Washington. It would accomplish roughly the same thing as what you're asking without creating a cul-de-sac and cutting off the neighborhood. Now, it would still allow people coming down Carib from the bottom of your screen
Right, right.
to turn right into. So it wouldn't prevent all traffic,
That's true.
but it would limit it.
Yes. And so there would be no way to get out, to come into the neighborhood?
No, it would be a right out only. I mean, we could do, that is a possibility, is it not?
Yes, there is.
I'm not saying that's the best possibility,
In
but
and draw it, I don't think.
I can't zoom. Trees can zoom.
I see the truck right there.
just,
Traffic here would be allowed here. Wouldn't allow, put an island in here. Prevent that turn.
a little T island,
room
like a
to do that?
T-bone, and they could only go right. People could only come in.
But
Who owns this?
these, our orange lines on maps online are not correct. Patrice, if you'll go to the actual plat, it'll look a lot better.
That's what we were trying to find.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you look here, so this property lines are here. All
The
that.
entire lane is on the
They own it.
Parker property.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Now, that would prevent people from coming all the way from or going all the way out to find a way back in through Casa.
That's Caribe is, Caribe, I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
It's Carib and down to
Caribe, okay.
Casa,
That's Linda's the next one over.
Lenza, back up and down to Columbia.
So what they would
Meant
do
that.
then is they would be coming down Casa Linda
Casa Linda.
and coming onto Casa Rosa and turning to go up in that little road that way.
Yes, they could still go in, but it would prevent people from coming back
I
out.
don't know that folks would actually turn here, come down here, to come over, to come back up, to come here,
Oh, trust me,
straight in.
trust me, they will. They come from all over.
Well, Miramar or Valdez there, those connect to Casa Rosa, correct?
Uh-huh,
So they could take, some people might cut from Columbia up one of those
Right, come
access
down
roads to
Miramar.
prevent getting on Washington Road.
right. Exactly.
I understand that.
Exactly. One of my concerns, I have many, but one of my concerns is that I don't want to see Washington Road right there turn into a Gordon Highway. I see it as over time becoming the 30906 of Columbia County.
Well, we are working on that.
I hope not.
No, not making it happen. We're working to prevent that from happening.
Yes, yes.
I grew up in 30906. I live a block from this, so I don't want to see my neighborhood come where I grew up. I'm with you on that, don't worry.
Good, good, good. Well, and so, you know, with you having said that, you guys don't want, any of you would not want your neighborhood to become a racetrack. And literally, I mean, they fly, because they're straight streets, they fly down through there. I don't go out in my front yard to do anything. I go to the backyard simply because it's not safe in my front yard if I've got a dog. My dog is either on a leash or, you know, I mean, but it's just,
Casa Rosa qualify for a study?
I'm not
I mean,
probably make an
it's,
exception for that because of how connected the network is. If it was just a simple road that didn't have all the other connecting roads, probably not, but much connectivity is there in that neighborhood. There's 7 exits between Washington Road and Columbia Road.
right.
Keep going, and then you turn on to Bel Air, there's connections there. This is a great example of a well-connected neighborhood where you can get all through it without having to hit the main roads.
We actually do strive to have this. This is actually what we prefer as a county, because we want that connectivity and the alternate routes for emergency vehicles, for traffic access in case of a, I mean, the more we limit it, the more we kind of go backwards on the overall intent, to be honest with you.
Well, you're not cutting off the access to anybody because if they're coming down Washington or Columbia Road, they have all kinds of right turns into Parker's. They can go out the other side of Parker's and they can get on Bobby Jones.
Right.
You know, so there's just no need to have to force or allow them to do that. If that was the only thing they could do, is come through the neighborhoods, that would be great. But it would be much more beneficial, I would think, for everyone to have it where they don't have that choice because there are other choices. To just
I'm
remove
just
one of
speaking
those
for
choices.
myself, I don't see us cutting that road off. If there's a way to do the right, left, I mean, to have access to that road, I don't see cutting that off, but if there's a way to study it, if you do speed humps, or better yet, or include the right-left option that Trey was talking about,
Right.
right?
Two rights. Three lefts do.
Graduated from Georgia.
Well, there's only 3 houses from where it would cut people off to Casa Rosa. And so those 3 people, well, 3 on both sides, those 3 people would easily just be fed out into that street and they can, go wherever they need to. You're still going to have people coming and cutting through Marcella, Miramar, if they've got an entrance in, then that's my concern. That there's lots of other places
Well,
they come through, just that's the one I'm
Two,
talking.
two parts to an option here, ma'am, and then I think we have to
Okay.
move on, will be that right-in, right-out entrance and potentially speed bumps or speed humps on Casa Linda.
Can we have our own policeman that lives with us?
I think there's a
Sheriff on the
couple,
phone?
I think there's a couple of policemen over there in that area, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's what we need for just somebody that they don't want to come
Well,
through.
if we do a traffic study, again, under normal circumstances, I don't know that Casa Linda would qualify, because it's not a large or particularly fast road, but
But it's a feeder road.
because of the connectivity, as Mr. Schlachter was saying, we could probably do a study on that and see if it qualifies for speed humps or something like that. Nothing too excessive, but enough to keep people from drag racing, if that's your concern.
Well, like I said, that's one of my concerns. It's just the sheer volume of traffic and how they just mistreat our neighborhoods.
Well, I can tell you, not a lot of people are going to want to drive down it if they hit a speed hump every.
Well, that's good.
That section of road is only 700 feet long, so about all you get.
That's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm
Big one.
concerned about. Yeah.
Well, they're also going to be coming down and cutting through the parking lot of the convenience store, the Dock in the Box, I can't think of what it is, Kids Place. They're going to be cutting through those parking lots to get there as well because that turn is so difficult to make going the other direction. So they'll come down through there to do that. That was my other thought. And, if there was a fence just right there on that property that cut them off from the parking lot, then there would be no need to come down Miramar or wherever and come through the parking lot because you can't get out. So,
Ms.
Any
Jones,
questions?
Were you okay with it while it was a Walgreens? You just felt like the additional traffic that goes to the convenience store is the real problem?
I wasn't okay with it, but I could tolerate it because of the volume. It was kind of a little neighborhood drugstore and, but that's not a drop in the bucket to what we're going to get when we have, people coming into, at the volume that Parker's is going to have. And I just don't feel like it's appropriate for our neighborhood to be the feeder roads in and out of their property. Any questions that I can answer for anybody? Thank you.
I'm going to ask
Somebody from Parker's here?
the applicant here.
And I think that there's a request from, check out the
Right in, right in.
the left turn.
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I'm Daniel Ben Israel, Real Estate Development Manager for Parker's Kitchen, here with Cody Rogers, our civil engineer. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
You guys have any thoughts or concerns about to help address the lady that spoke before you? Any thoughts on maybe making that a right-in, right-out?
Sure. So what we've proposed so far to address those concerns is putting in a height restriction bar. Definitely restrict truck traffic going back through the neighborhood.
How tall? Just curious. How tall?
It would be detrimental to the success of the store to cut that off?
So, I mean, whenever we're talking about limiting access, then it does have an impact on the
Oh, sure,
performance of the
but
store.
I'm talking about a material impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me
I
to.
actually grew up in that area and know it very well, and everything that she's saying, is correct. I mean, would you think it would make a material effect to that store's success if you have Bobby Jones and Washington Road
Sure.
in and out? That's pretty substantial.
Sure, absolutely. No, I mean, honestly, I think, it will have an impact. It's hard for me to quantify what that impact will be. That's a great location for us. I think the store's gonna do well there, with or without that access, to be quite honest with you. The width of that access road, it would be difficult for us to kind of design that as a 3/4 access to limit movement, left-hand movements, left turn movements out of the site. And actually, I don't know, Cody can speak to this better than I can, even, restricting it to right in, right out, putting in the little pork chop or the raised median there, that would help us manage those movements. It may be difficult to do that. We prefer to keep it open. We prefer to have that as a means of access and egress to the site, not only for members of the community for that immediate neighborhood, but again, it's another point of access and egress that could service anyone visiting our location. We prefer to keep it open, but we're certainly open to working with the commission, community, to come up with a solution that we all can live with.
With the concrete, the right in, right out, would that be in county road, or would that be on their property?
Most likely, probably both. A little bit on private property, a little bit on right of way.
You're saying that you don't think there's room there to do that?
Thick, bold lines north and south of the drive are the property line. South property line actually. Yes, but there's as you can see, that drive takes up pretty much the entire property right there. So we would have to fit it in there and see. It may be substandard pork chop, but in looking at it, I do think it'd be difficult to build a.
We'll say this, a substandard pork chop is a waste of time. Not built to standards, no point in doing it because it does not work.
My next question would be, so you wouldn't scrap the project if you couldn't?
We would not, quite honestly. However, I would like to offer up one other solution that we'd be willing to pay for if the commission found it advantageous to install speed bumps on Carib Drive, then we'd be willing to pay for that. Or any other, we'd be willing to consider any other improvements to that stretch of roadway that would help manage the situation.
That even though the site plan currently shows full access driveways, as you all know, these are two state routes. We're under permitting or in permitting with GDOT, and the TIA has come back and recommended right in, right outs, which of course, local, that they're probably going to function as right in, right outs anyways on both those state routes for all intents and purposes. But that will be a likely change to the plan, is that both of our main drives on these state routes will be short enough right in, right outs with full-size pork chops.
Everything's going to end up being clockwise. Nobody's going left onto Bobby Jones or Washington Road out of that location.
Chair, I mean, to Commissioner Allen's point, Commissioner Allen's point, I mean, we'd like to keep it open, keep the access there. Again, I understand the concerns about traffic flow through that neighborhood. But there's the flip side of that coin is that it does provide access to our location from that neighborhood. Those individuals that would be visiting our location from that neighborhood, you know, they could come in via right in, but they would also have to leave via right out only or to restrict those movements, which isn't ideal, again, but we'd be willing to consider, you know, whatever solution best.
Where's the nearest okay, so somebody goes right, somebody comes from those neighborhoods, Casa Linda back behind here, her house. They go right in, then they're gonna have to go right out onto Bobby Jones. Where's the nearest access to get them back by? They're gonna have to go all the way up to
Marcella,
Marcella,
yep, take a right and come back around.
So a map, you can
swing back around. If we scan out enough, I'm not sure.
there you go.
So yeah, they would go up another block, and so again, everything goes clockwise. Everything goes to the right. I honestly feel like that's a pretty good compromise. I understand the concerns about the wall.
Anybody in this neighborhood that's wanting to go there and right back home, you're introducing them to Bobby Jones.
Yeah, but they're only gonna go right and up and right.
Understand, just back into the neighborhood, without going out of the neighborhood.
Obviously, this location will service, you know, the population beyond this immediate neighborhood.
Certainly.
But when considering the residents in this neighborhood, I think it's more convenient for them to leave it as a full access point.
You think that the neighbors that live there would rather have that road in there, is what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying as patrons,
Right.
they would prefer probably to have that as a full access to get them more easily from their residence, as opposed to being introduced to Bobby
Give
Jones.
them access to using the store.
Right.
It's,
No, I-
if someone living on Casa Rosa wants to go to the Parkers, it's convenient to have that entrance.
Are there sidewalks?
No.
There's,
If you'd like to speak after they finish, well,
there's
let it
a
come up.
sidewalk on Washington Road, out on the Bobby Jones side. So, and again, and I know we've already talked about it, brought it up, but there are so many points of existing access to this subdivision or residential area that questions how much this right in, right out, or how much traffic Parker's is actually gonna bring through a neighborhood that has 7 entrances that acts as a cut through. Because that, we're not gonna affect the light that's there. We're not gonna change that. It is an existing problem as is.
I think another consideration, just as the board contemplates this is a situation where the property actually, this is not an easement. I mean, this is fee simple property that's accessed off of Carib Drive. I mean, so taking away an access that was purchased that way, it's just something else to contemplate. And I understand we have to protect the neighborhood as well, but it's not a situation where it's an easement. It is
Right on.
part of their property.
Mr. Kennedy, do you think there would be any concern from the fire department or fire marshal in not having that third access?
I wouldn't think
But we want as many as we can get, right,
Yeah.
Chief?
Mr. Lecter, do you think there's something that you guys in engineering could figure out that could help out with that third access, or do you absolutely think that that's not a good idea to put the right in, right out?
I'd hate to give you an answer without sitting down and actually looking at it. I know we're showing a 24-foot road. I think the existing road is probably 20 feet right now, so you are expanding the road. But
Maybe, it may be. It may be 20 feet.
Is this pretty much an accurate representation of how it looks currently?
Yes. You mean as it's?
Yeah,
is
in
the field
general,
right now,
it's
or as
roughly 24 feet, it's roughly this length, it's
Roughly.
straight, it's,
Yeah, we're talking plus or minus 3 feet.
yeah,
probably.
yeah. Well, short of making it a condition, can we ask for cooperation without requiring cooperation? What is the best solution here?
Again, it goes back, I don't feel comfortable giving you an answer because of how tight it is to figure out how we can make a functional right in, right out, or a right in, right out, and a left in. I think left in still functions. I have no problem working. Kyle and myself will sit down and work with them and see if we can make that happen. I can't commit to it without.
Right, and I'm just saying, without making it a condition, make you guys commit.
Want it to be a condition, right?
Well, the goal is to discourage extra traffic through the neighborhood. I know you guys want more traffic. I understand that, but the goal is to discourage them using that access. The vast majority of your traffic is going to come through Washington or Bob Jones anyways. Can we do a traffic study of some sort here on Carib or on Casa Linda, and maybe an over-under if it meets a certain criteria? And we can ask for the speed bumps, and you guys are saying you'd be volunteering to assist us with that?
Absolutely.
Could I propose that also the county review the traffic study we have, determine based on that information too, takes into account, probability of certain trips leaving all driveways, and that would further this.
Okay,
We have that information.
you do have that?
It's a matter of the county reviewing.
So, makes sense to you guys then? We'll,
Sounds reasonable to me.
really, we're going to go on, rather than make it a condition, we're going to go on your goodwill. Kind of work on this and assist us and assist the neighborhood if possible. Just discouraging, not stopping, not preventing, but just doing what we can to try to create the traffic flow through the two main entrances, if possible.
Absolutely.
Is that satisfactory to everyone? It's not an ideal answer, but I do sense, and after the fact, if we have to, ma'am, we can always revisit things like speed humps and things like that, outside of their lot. So, the point is, you've been heard, and we sympathize, so. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there,
Question.
There has not been a motion made yet.
Okay.
The actual motion has not been discussed.
Okay.
No, that was,
Side
I
issue.
don't know what the question.
it started with her coming up to speak, and then, all right, so now are we ready for the motion?
please?
All right. All of this being discussed and on record, I would like to make a motion to approve the request for a variance to sections 9139 and 9147, G10B2I and G10B22, I'm sorry, G2II, for property located at tax map 078C, parcel 223, to reduce or remove the structural buffer and separation requirements along shared lot lines with residential zone property subject to the conditions enumerated in the June 5th, 2025 Planning Commission report.
Second.
Any other discussion, debate?
What were to remove the structural buffer, what, can we get a quick explanation?
Ma'am, so code requires a 30-foot buffer when this property abuts a residential property, so this property line here, residential property here. Left hand is not good at drawing, sorry. So that 30-foot buffer, again, this is existing site, so they are modifying this existing site. We have met with them on multiple occasions. They've actually made the building smaller. They've actually reduced the number of pumps out in front to try to shove this building as far away from the residential property as they can. In doing so, they got to a 15-foot structural buffer in this area here. Code calls for 30. Currently, the existing curb line is probably a foot off the property line. So there's no buffer there currently. So this is a 15-foot improvement fence, as well as evergreens being planted this way. There is a example of the trees that was done early on. This was their first rendition. They've actually made it bigger since then, so there will be landscaping in this area. The other variance request is the separation from the corner of the building to the property line. Code calls for 100 foot, and this existing building is closer. They've made the proposed building they came to us with originally was about maybe 9,000. They reduced it by about 1,000 square feet to make it smaller. They've adjusted some drive aisles. They've eliminated some parking in the rear of the building.
I mean, so it's supposed to be 100 from the
100 from
corner,
the
and
corner of the building
how far
to
is
the
this?
54, I believe. When they first came to us, it was 38, so we were able to go from 38 to 54 through our discussions with them. And the parking down here, we were concerned about parking along close to the residential properties. They've agreed to make that employee parking, so we don't have people parking constantly by this residential property. So 15 foot instead of 30 foot, and 54 foot, 4 foot instead of 100 feet.
And currently it's less than 20, correct? The current building to the property line?
I don't know off the top of my head, I apologize.
I believe it's less than 20 feet.
It's tight, it's really tight, and it's enough room for a road to sneak by.
It is an unusual property plat. Shape is,
So that one corner is the only residential,
Zoom in on this area, Patrice.
that's the only residential property line that's shared?
Correct. So as you can see, the curb, existing curb is almost on the property line in the corner of the existing building. Drive through right here, so that distance right here is really tight. Going from that distance, to that distance.
Have we heard from these residents that live here?
That's what I wanted.
Nothing?
Somebody.
Corey?
Right, that was a 38-foot distance, now 54, which is even further away.
Please, if you would like to speak, come up. Just will state your name and address for the record, please.
Sylvia Elam, E-L-A-M. My address is 4442 Oak Road. I'm speaking for my mother, who is Sylvia Pearson, P-I-E-R-S-O-N, at 205 Casalinda Drive, the next-door neighbor for Sherwin Williams. The gentleman, the couple that live right at the end of the access road are the Suggs. I stopped and asked him to come to the meeting, but they have a 3-week-old baby, and 2 other children at home, and he said after work it's going to be a little too busy for him to leave his wife to come to this, and I understood that. The problem that Mr. Suggs has with that is right where you pull off that access road is his mailbox. So they have to be very cautious. They can't let the children come out and get the mail anymore. The children try to play in the backyard, but it's a little too noisy. Fence that separates on that drive, I guess it was damaged in the storm, or it's leaning in the storm, and it still is. They don't have a lot of property there. They cannot move, which they would like to, because they can afford that home. And now with 3 children, they can still afford it, but they can't afford to move anywhere else. She is a stay-at-home mom, and so she is there with the children in the house, in the backyard, because they can't stay outside in the front. I can speak for Casalinda, where my mother is at 205, like I said, next to Sherwin Williams. There used to be a 203, but that's gone because that's Sherwin Williams drainage and parking lot. We walk that neighborhood.
When is the Suggs?
Suggs are at whatever's by 207, that one.
That's, oh, okay.
204. It's not shown, but it's
Right, and if you had that other picture, you can see their little mailbox right there in the corner. The problem they also have there is the trash, as Kimberly was mentioning. People would zip out of there, and that was just when it was Walgreens. You had asked earlier, Commissioner Milner, about the Walgreens versus the Parkers. Walgreens just had traffic, sadly enough, just piddly going in and out, and that was it. My mother has, with Sherwin-Williams, at 6 a.m., the wake-up of the painters coming in again at 6 p.m. or at 4 p.m. when they close, the painters coming there. The problem that I see that Parker's is going to have is the daytime traffic, the first thing in the morning traffic, trying to get the breakfast, lunch traffic, attempting to get the lunch, and then the dinner traffic. So it's going to, I feel it's going to increase that traffic back there. Kimberly had mentioned about, I guess at 211, the sign that is in that business at Action Medical, instructing people how to get in and out. I'm the nurse practitioner there, so often I have to help people get through that neighborhood. When my mother and I walk that neighborhood at night, my mother's 90, so I won't let her walk that neighborhood alone. We go around 7 o'clock at night because that's when the temperature's good. In the winter, we really can't go at 5 because the traffic's kind of bad back there, and people don't slow down. Trust me, speed bumps become nothing but, jump boards like it used to be when I was young on bicycles. These kids go over it, bits and pieces, you just hear it dragging on the cars. So when we're walking there, the traffic is very high, and we have to watch when we're walking, and we're doing the right side of the road. My mother is a fanatic about walking on the correct side of the road, and we have to have people slow down. I have to try to walk outside of her, which she has trouble with because, again, people are going fast through that neighborhood. So I understand Parker's wanting to keep that access open. I mean, that's common sense with the business. Have as many accesses if you can. But common sense is also not to build where you have one access in and one access out when you're right there at a corner by a traffic light. That is a heavy, heavy traffic area. So they are only going to be able to get into Washington Road, and they are only going to be able to get into Bobby Jones, which is the same problem that Action Medical has with their patients. One way in and one way out. We can't get patients back to Washington Road. And it's hard to get on Columbia Road. Where I leave my neighborhood to get onto Columbia Road, I could not get here by taking a left out of my neighborhood because the traffic heading west on Columbia Road is so heavy. So I understand the progress that's going on. I understand the businesses that are needed to help stimulate the economy and stimulate the county. I get that. And I understand progress. But now progress is getting to the point where I have to ask, as G.K. Chesterton said, what are we progressing towards? Or eliminating the neighborhoods. Kids in that neighborhood, there are children on Valdez that love to ride their bike. They are daredevils. I will say those children, it does not surprise me, they have not jumped off the roof. We're waiting for that day. But they're boys. Nothing personal, but you understand. And they love to ride their bike. The problem isn't so much the bicycles that go through there, it is the golf carts. And these children at every age are on those golf carts, and not one of them have a clue about traffic laws. Not one.
It's not legal.
Right.
So
maybe Kimberly does need to marry the policeman to get one in our neighborhood. But anyway, so
I
that's.
wasn't aware that matrimony was part of the equation, but okay.
Well, she's asked for a policeman in the neighborhood, and I thought to myself, that's the only way to get one, marry one. So my whole point with this is there's a lot of traffic back there, and I know with Parker's there, they're going to have set times that it's a little bit heavier. And unfortunately, people that at breakfast, they're kind of in a rush to get breakfast and hit that, Highway 250 or 520 racetrack to get to where they have to go. And then the same thing's going to happen at lunch, and the same thing's going to happen at dinner, where you pick up your food and then you drive home. As for the neighborhood needing Parker's Kitchen, well, we've gotten along very well with Circle K at Columbia Road and Washington Road. That has serviced us forever. And further on down. To sit there and go, oh, thank God there's a Parker's. Now I don't have to drive 100 yards to get gas. I seriously doubt that's going to be a revelation of any of the residents there. So understandable that it is a business access, but do take into consideration back there. When you were talking about that it's an in and out neighborhood, yes, it is. But if you'll notice, all the neighborhoods in Evans have those main roads in, and then you have side roads into the neighborhood, and no businesses encroaching on any of those. There's sidewalks in all of them. So these neighborhoods are old founding neighborhoods that have been here forever, that have been here before Columbia Road was even paved. They have been there forever, and they have supported, and a lot of people that live there cannot afford to move, or they're too old, i.e. my mother. So thank you, I appreciate your time and you had for me.
Just final thoughts on this is, the ask is not can parkers go here, the ask is where they set the building on the lot. So just keep that in mind. If you say no to this variance, absolutely do, they can simply take this building and shift it up, and they don't have to come back and talk to you at all. They can build the building. They're just asking to shift it further back away from Washington Road. Just wanted to point that out.
And part of our discernment as a commission is not always just, no offense meant, because you have beautiful stores, but sometimes it's the lesser of all evils. And that building is sitting empty. How long will it be empty? What will it be replaced with if not this? Which, I think in any objective, I would say that they run a very nice establishment. Busy, traffic-wise, but I charge you to find a Parker's that is not well-maintained, or at least attractive. So that's also something that we have to weigh.
Thank you. Other discussion points? A motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries. But, whatever the thing was, bar.
The 10-foot truck bar. That's already there. Second item. I make a motion to approve the request for the change of conditions for property located at tax map 052, parcel 037, with the condition that either the roundabout or the previously conditioned left turn lane must be installed prior to approval of the final plat for the first phase of the project.
Second.
So there's a condition placed on this development that a left turn lane be installed on Wright Spur Road. Since that condition was placed back in, I believe, 2020, GDOT has implemented a project to build a roundabout at the intersection of Baker Place and Wright Spur Road. That project is scheduled to start in about 3 years with construction, so probably 4 years before we have an actual roundabout there. So the request was to not make them build a left turn lane on a road that will have a roundabout eventually.
Applicant here.
Y'all just please
Good evening.
name and address for the record and take 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Tyler Finley, Houston Homes, 6053 Veterans Parkway, Columbus, Georgia. And when we asked for this, I didn't realize there was a 3-year turnaround time on GDOT's roundabout. So it kind of makes it a ask. But with that knowledge, or with that being said, we'd like to get started as soon as possible. So it seems like a turn lane is going to be the answer here. But we don't know the market. There's a lot of things that could happen between now and then. So we're just simply asking for the change of conditions to allow us to either do a turn lane, which is already in place, or be the fourth leg of the roundabout. Happy to answer any questions that you guys may.
In bringing this change of conditions forward to us, I read over the conditions that were placed on this rezoning back in 2020 and noticed that there was one regarding attaining sewer within 2 years of the approval of the rezoning in 2020. Can you update me on where that is?
So we have either submitted or are submitting a water plan. Gone through a couple of different variations on this. We're actually doing this site because it was going to be so expensive to run sewer to the site. We looked at doing it from a septic tank neighborhood and doing a rezoning so we didn't have to do sewer. The soils came back, according to our soil scientist, to be the worst soils he's ever seen. And on the site, it was going to yield, I think, about 25 lots. And so we said, well, that doesn't really pay us back for the amount of money we invested in the land. Let's back up and try again. And so here we are. We've deleted some crossings here. that doesn't really come into play with our conversation tonight, but just trying to show you what we've done over the course of the last several years to try to figure this site out. But to answer your question, we are putting in plan, if we don't have it in already, soon with the sewer and water plan running down Hamilton Road.
What year did you get it zoned?
It's 2020 or 2021?
2020.
So why were you unable to get it, why were you unable to attain the sewer within 2 years per the conditions?
So we had Quaker Knoll across the street, which was one of the sites that we were working on, and at the time, we didn't need the lots, and we didn't anticipate the length of time it would take to get from where we were then to where we are now. So things, development timelines have gotten a little bit lengthy over the course of time.
So per the conditions, you were to attain sewer within 2 years, but you were unable to?
But we've talked with the county and had conversations, and I'm 99% certain their engineers had conversations to make sure that the capacity is there. We just have not started the neighborhood to bring sewer to the site,
Per the condition to do it in 2 years?
for the condition to do it in 2 years.
So does that mean it automatically just reverts back to the RA?
I would take you guys' knowledge on that. That's not something that we've investigated.
I was just, as she was saying, I apologize, I didn't mean to step on your toes. One of the older conditions said if you were unable to attain sewer within 2 years, it would revert back to the original, which puts you back to an RA, which puts you back to having those septic tanks probably. But
Okay.
you've saved money not having to cross these streams, so you'll be able to go back to those larger lots to RA?
So it's possible, is that what we're being told here tonight, is that we're no longer an R2 subdivision, we are an RA subdivision?
If you're telling me you didn't get sewer within those 2 years, that's what you're saying.
We have not run sewer to the site, yes,
So can we go back to RA?
ma'am. I'd have to go back to my office and have conversations internally and see.
You want
I
to
know
go
how
do
that
that and
looks.
come back?
Sure, we can do that.
Allison, I apologize, I didn't mean to step on your toes.
That's all right. Mr. Schroeder, what would the process look like for reverting back to RA from the county's perspective?
I'd let Mr. Driver answer that one for you.
So on this one, it wasn't an automatic reversion. It said we follow the procedures and it's cited to the section. And so the county, after those 2 years and to today, could do a county-initiated rezone back to RA, but it's not automatic.
Not automatic, but it falls on us to decide if we'd like to
Correct.
pursue
Through
that.
the process.
Correct.
With hearing Mr. Finley say that, I'm sorry,
That's right, yes, sir.
Timeline didn't work. Can I ask that we table this and let staff go back and work with him on how we get through this RA/R2 and how we can
Yes, I
try to
think,
have it?
I think that's reasonable.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We have to vote on the one that has a motion and a second, or can they give us a motion before we vote?
You change the motion. You can amend your motion.
You want me to amend my existing motion?
Yes.
Oh, then I make a motion to table the request for change of conditions for property at tax map 052, parcel 037.
Actually, it'd be postponing, not tabling, you'd be postponing to the next meeting. Is that when you want to do that, or there needs to be a date certain?
That's
2
sufficient
weeks, do
time?
you need a month? How
staff?
long do you need?
That's sufficient time for staff, or do we need to?
Staff's fine with that as long as you
We
are.
can have a conversation between them, yes, sir.
Postponing to that.
So then postponing to the next Board of Commissions meeting
July 1st.
on July 1st.
second.
Any other questions? There's a motion to postpone it to July 1st on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Finley.
Thank you.
You. Third item.
Slow tonight.
Talk faster.
I make a motion to approve the request for the major S1 revision for property located at tax map 179, parcel 066, to add a new entrance with masonry walls and signage along the frontage subject to the conditions enumerated in the June 5th, 2025 Planning Commission report, and also an encroachment agreement for said wall.
Second.
We have a request here to build this nice entryway wall for Augusta Prep. You can see here, this is their existing driveway. Wall will be around that. The existing metal gates that you saw that are out there now will be rehung on these new columns. The columns do reach 13 foot in height. The fence is around 8 foot in height. It does show the fence going the entire length of Flowing Wells Road along their property. I do believe they have it phased out as an add alternate, so they may only do the entryway you see here. They may do the whole thing. There is a condition that says this applies only for this masonry wall. They can't come back and put a 13-foot tall chain link fence up. I will point out that the road sits 4 or 5 feet higher than the property, so when you do the scale of the road to a 13-foot fence, it won't look daunting. It'll look pleasing to the eye. It does include the signage, where you see the red on the walls here. The red lines are the actual writing. The red circles are more of a pendant that'll be on the wall. And the encroachment agreement is to allow them to encroach over some storm.
And they understand if for some reason we have to dig it up, it's on them.
Right.
Motion and second on the floor. Favor raise your right hand.
Item 4. I make a motion to approve the request for the major PUD revision for property located at tax map 029 parcel 037L to add a conditional use for retail package sales of distilled spirits for all-premise purposes, consumption.
Second.
Even with the proper zoning, a liquor store is a conditional use, so they do have to come back in front of this board for a conditional use approval. They do meet all of the requirements for spacing between churches, parks, schools, as well as other liquor stores.
Have any comment from the neighbors?
Not heard anything.
Questions? Motion and second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. Oh, you voted against, sorry. 4-1.
Item 5. I make a motion to approve the request for a major S1 revision for property located at tax map 063B, parcel 028, for a proposed fellowship hall and associated parking per the conceptual plan and narrative submitted to Columbia County Planning on May 23rd of 2025.
Second.
This S1 zoning requires the approval of a site plan. You'd have an existing church on this property. They're looking to add a proposed fellowship hall here, as well as their parking lot, as you see, area here. Questions you have about it?
Questions? Motion and second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Ally, we're hot today. Item 6, I make a motion to approve the request for the rezoning from S1 to R1 for 1.01 plus or minus an acre portion of property located at tax map 061 parcel 1829.
Second.
Here you have a S1 zoning for the church. When this property was zoned S1, there was a residence in this corner here. They are now looking to sell that, and because the narrative for this S1 zoning did not call out a residential use, they're having to rezone to the R1 zoning in order to subdivide that and then sell the property. I will point out that there is a mobile home on this property. R1 does not allow that. However, there are mobile homes beside it on R1 zoning as well, so this will be a non-conforming use, and it will follow state law when it comes to replacing mobile homes. There's a specific state law that we have to follow when it comes to mobile home uses.
Questions? Motion and second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Which brings us to item 7. If I am correct, we have had a request made by the applicant, so I will make a motion to allow withdrawal without prejudice for the rezoning from PUD to S1 for property located at tax map 061, parcels 2140 and 2141 for a solar farm.
Second.
Currently, it's zone PUD. It does allow for about 140 townhomes as well as some retail space. They were looking to go to S1 zoning to allow a solar farm to be installed. Again, we did ask for a withdrawal. The motion is without prejudice, which means they can come back for another application when they so desire.
Or they
Rom?
can build 140 townhomes and no questions.
Correct. This, what you see here is what's already approved.
Rom? Not even going to attempt. State your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Warren Critco, 1420 Hennerwald Street, Leander, Texas. Ram and I work together. I represent CTEC Solar. So we were just wanting to respectfully see if we could withdraw the application at this point. At the first hearing, we did hear the community, and there were several questions, concerns with either setbacks or, you know, how they would see the project, what that would potentially look like. And we would just like a little bit more time to basically get our application back together and try to address those concerns. First and foremost, hopefully everybody can be happy.
Is the motion?
About G. Sharma. State your name and address for the record, sir.
D.B. Sharma, residing at 3543 Interlochen Drive, Martinez, Georgia. I'm the owner of the property. Acquired this property in 2007. Have paid tons of interest on it. Have paid tons of property taxes on it. Have had several different plans designed and paid engineers to design those plans. None of them could ever materialize. Therefore, I thought that a solar farm would be befitting for community. It create clean energy and cheaper energy and benefit the community. So I decided to volunteer for it. Unfortunately, there was a lot of uninformed residents and neighbors who made presentations. Yes, we have since collected a lot of hard scientific data based on hard research involving one study involved 1.8 million homes covering 6 different states. But we did not have the time. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm represented by the same law firm as represents the county. So they were not in a position to represent me and my buyers. We have decided to take some time off and bring it back and present all the evidence and satisfy all the concerns of the residents. They are somewhat based on lack of knowledge and somewhat based on their concerns, but we'll address all those concerns. We'll make the county happy and we'll make them.
Sure. Brenda Hardman or Heidman? Record, ma'am.
Brenda Heidman, 104 Hot Springs Court. I just out the
Withdrawal?
withdrawal. I was there are some factors involved in solar panel that is not controllable or predictable. I ask you not to rezone on Columbia Road across from Patriot for the following reason. In July 5.2 megawatt solar panel, 14,000 panels in Nebraska was damaged by a hailstorm, causing the release of toxic chemicals into the soil. That's a factor that can't be acknowledged. One estimate is that land will be contaminated. This solar panel farm in Nebraska was about the same size as the proposed site on Columbia County experiences hailstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes. Risk for solar panel damage is great. You only need one catastrophic. List of toxic chemicals used in panels include 1. Copper, indium, gallium diselenide. Cadmium telluride. 3. Amorphous silicon. 4, cadmium, thallium. 5, hexafluoroethane. 6, lead. 7, polyvinyl fluoride. These toxic substances escape and enter the environment during damage, destruction, or disposal of solar panels. Toxic chemicals contained in the solar panels are expensive to clean. Solar panel farms last only 5 years. Then panels have to be replaced and recycled. The Nebraska solar panel farm lasted 4 years. Recycling facilities are scarce and expensive. Solar panels are expensive to recycle. Panels have to be handled carefully, don't break. The cost is $20 to $30 to recycle one panel, our 2021 estimates. Nearby creek on the proposed site will spread the toxic chemicals into surrounding areas. Happens, toxic chemicals will render the land useless, building, planting, etc. Land and homes will be unsellable. Property values will drop. The close proximity to Park endanger that beautiful park. Will developers walk away from recycling costs because they can't afford it? Will developers walk away from cleanup costs because they can't afford it? And learn from other counties and states. There are many more valid reasons not to have solar panel farms. Many to talk about here. Ultimately, it's Columbia County residents who will end up suffering the risk consequences. Don't rezone this land. Or, thank you.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries. I see no requests for review by committee. Under public comments, Ms. Karen Parham.
Good evening. My name is Karen Parham. My address is 3421 Hilltop Trail. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here tonight as the CEO of the Freedom to Read Coalition of Columbia County to raise concerns about the county's public assembly application process, particularly how it applies to peaceful political demonstrations. Right now, the same application is used for events like parades and street fairs, but our demonstrations have never blocked roads or pedestrian traffic. We've always been careful to remain respectful of public spaces during demonstrations. Technically, waving signs on a sidewalk does not require a permit, but we've gone through the process anyway in good faith. Also, at our last event, we set up a small canopy tent to serve as a command station with basics like water and a first aid kit. It's a safety measure, especially considering the wide range of ages and abilities in our group. It's our understanding that using a tent does require a permit, which we're not disputing. We've requested the use of handheld loudspeakers, but honestly, those are unnecessary. Our main concern is the insurance minimums tied to the application. $1 million per occurrence and $2 million aggregate. For a small group of people waving signs, this feels excessive. The ACLU of Georgia agrees. They've told us that high insurance minimums like these create a higher premium, which deters individuals and organizations from applying for a permit. I'm not saying that's the intent of this policy, but it is the effect. The ACLU also said many smaller municipalities, especially those without a history of political demonstrations, are still working out how to apply these types of policies without burdening free speech. They advise that they're addressing this issue statewide. So, Mr. Driver, if you'd like the contact info for the ACLU of Georgia's First Amendment Council, I'd be happy to share it with you after the meeting. I'll admit that predicting turnout is difficult. For our last event, I estimated 100 attendees on the forum, and that was a guess, and I overestimated. When events move quickly, it's hard to give precise numbers, or if we need to anticipate counter-protesters. That's why a cooperative relationship between organizers and the county is so important, such as what we saw at the large, peaceful No Kings protest in Augusta over last weekend. And I want to take a moment to publicly commend Anthony Sweat, who's been an outstanding liaison. He's been consistently professional and helpful, and I appreciate that immensely. That said, I also want to express concerns over reports that library staff were told to call the police if someone brought a sign into the building on their way to the bathroom. If true, that's disappointing. First, are signs actually prohibited? And if so, under what policy or regulation? The only people I've seen bring signs was on December 10th, and they were the ones supporting the guidelines. And they left their signs in the breezeway entrance of the library. It wasn't us. Many of us wore matching t-shirts on December 10th, but we did not turn the regional board meeting into a protest. So if there's a rule about signs, why is that not applied to everyone? Second, we are not extremists. Most of our members are community volunteers, retired teachers, librarians, veterans, and parents, people who care deeply about public libraries and want them to serve everyone. However, we will not be intimidated out of expressing our First Amendment rights. We welcome clear, direct communication with the county, not vague warnings or policies that feel like a setup with selective enforcement. While some worry about signs, we face real threats online. We've been called pedophiles and groomers. One individual called all LGBTQ people and their allies, they said that they should go through the wood chipper. Another mentioned death by firing squad. I gave a handout with those comments to Ms. Crawley before the meeting so it can be included in the public record. It's difficult to ascertain the seriousness of online threats. However, we will not back down from exercising our rights because of online bullying. That said, we would feel more comfortable if a deputy were present at future regional and county library board meetings. I don't make that request lightly. I understand that's a burden on law enforcement, but it would put many of our members at ease and serve as a deterrent to anyone thinking of acting on those online threats in real life. It only takes one lone wolf to create a deadly situation, and I don't think anyone wants that in our community. Thank you for your time.
Howard Johnson?
Good evening, Howard Johnson. I reside at 252 Silver Maple Road. I'm here to speak about the upcoming Regional Library Board meeting where they're going to vote on the new shelving policy. My request to this board is to reach out specifically to Mr. David Davis, Hillary Mylar, Pat Goodwin, Wendy Bedingfield, and Amanda Hullum. These are the members of the Columbia County Library Board of Advisors who have been appointed by that board to the Regional Library Board and will be our representatives at this vote on Thursday. So I'm going to go back in time to when I was in kindergarten, first grade. That was around the turn of the century, 2001-ish, when Harry Potter was the new hot thing.
Making me feel old, Howard.
My apologies, Mr. Duncan. So I was a child when Harry Potter was first released, and it quickly swept the world as a global phenomenon. I doubt anybody in here hasn't heard of the book series. When it was new, the series was challenged by quite a few people for being potentially satanic, leading children to witchcraft, several complaints that frankly were unfounded. At this time, my grandmother was the elementary school reading teacher, literacy teacher in my hometown of Odessa, Missouri, population of about 4,000, right? So I'm a small town kid. Everyone in the city of Odessa, age about 26 and older, because that's about when she retired, owes their ability to read to my grandmother. She was an amazing woman. She really cared about getting kids excited about reading, and that's why I'm so passionate about this myself. So one of my earliest childhood memories is actually attending the Board of Education meeting for Lafayette County, the county in which I resided as a child, with my grandmother to speak against the censorship efforts for Harry Potter in the school libraries. My grandmother, and please forgive me for this, it's the only time I ever heard her cuss when she stood there and said, "If a kid wants to read a book, who the hell are you to tell them they can't?" Otherwise a sweet lady, but she obviously got very fired up. She spent her whole career trying to get kids to pick up a book and was furious at people who were telling kids to put the books down. This is a similar situation that's happening now. Excuse me, there's one other thing I wanted to mention with regards to Harry Potter. You can see it a little in my beard. There's a little bit of red. It shows up especially in the summer as it, gets hit by the sun. My mother's completely redheaded. My grandmother was as well. And so my mother took a great shine to Molly Weasley, a character from the Harry Potter books, redheaded woman who was a fiercely protective mother, had a lot of qualities that, frankly, my mom has, right? And so she really connected with that character. I have great memories of listening to these books on car rides, via audiobooks, etc. Because my mom was able to see herself in that book, right? Representation matters. Seeing people that look like you matter. I have great memories with my mom because we made such connections over the shared stories that we read together. And the current situation at the library is attempting to restrict access to books with representation of marginalized people. There are gay children living here in Columbia County. There are trans children living here in Columbia County. I am asking you to, again, reach out to the members of our library board that are representatives for the county and the regional library board, ask them to choose to allow these children to see themselves in media. We do not need books with LGBTQ representation restricted as adult only. These are issues that children experience. They're real, and children deserve the right to see themselves as their heroes. What I'm asking is for everyone to have the opportunities that I had, right? In media, people like me are superheroes, right? I see myself all over the place. And I'm asking to share that joy with everyone, not just a select few. That's all I've got tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Howard. Ms. Susan Warren.
Warren, 129 North Tubman, Appling. And I appreciate having this opportunity to speak again about the data center. I am not a fan, able to, yes, I guess, what I said the last time. But I went back through some additional information I received. Made me want to come and speak again about this. This is a 2,000-acre tract, Columbia County, right next to the White Oak Business Park. That's only 612 acres, more than 3 times the size. We're going to have a huge project out. Anyway, the Tract A part of that, I'm sorry, I have aphasia, so sometimes I have trouble getting my words out. I apologize.
Okay, you're doing fine, you're doing fine.
Not much I can do about it at this age. But anyway, that tract, I looked it up, it was purchased in December, or deeded in December of '24. Was this purchased specifically for this project when you purchased this 1,000 acres? Or actually, I guess that was 6 acres. Or was it just to come up with something to do? Had this been discussed prior to that, I guess?
Yes.
All right, but I had not heard anything about it until very recently. The other 320 acres belong to Hart Pine land instead of to the county. Is that correct?
We have an option on some more. That's maybe what she's,
300 and something.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my
I was wondering, are you planning to buy that, or that you work with Heartline project is being.
The person who, the entity that's the one to ask these questions to is not present tonight.
In the May 1st Planning Committee, Planning Manager Will Butler discussed the water and the noise and the lighting that's gonna be out there. No hardline conditions are being proposed with this application due to the size of the project. Now that seems to me like you would be wanting to come up with more hardline. Quite sure I understand what you're saying there. Project hasn't been in the works since well before the land. Are there not more questions being already a data center? Why was there no information released to the public in order to have a public? Again, nobody's here that can answer it, huh?
No guarantee it'll become one.
Well,
That's the hope, but
so you may rezone it and
have to
not
get, yeah,
happen.
the Development Authority has to get a business to come.
The Planning Commission already had the rezoning request complete without comments from broadband, building standards, Board of Education, environmental, fire department, fire marshal, health department, planning, stormwater management, pre-construction, traffic, and water and sewer. That was in the zoning request. All that had been. All of these people's proposal from December 24, 2024 to May the 1st, 2025. That was kind of a short time. You know who's missing? Public. Public. Got it. Also missing vetting developer Trammell Crow. I know they've been around a long time, but an $11 billion project has been too big for some developers to chew once they got into it, you know? They find out they have lots of problems. Look at the cost overruns at Plant Vogel. Got to take things like that into consideration, start dealing with people. What happens if things go bump in the night in the middle of the development? Got any alternatives? What guarantee have that this what guarantee do we have that this project will be in a timely manner after I spent our tax dollars on improvements and roads? Because at one point in the package, it said, part, that I'm talking about Trammell Crow, meet a 2027 date, opening the first couple of buildings. Talking about extending roads, upgrading water. Tight timeline. Even water utility. Form expressed concerns about that timeline. Projects are rushed, mistakes are often made, and costs. Who in Columbia County visited other similar but smaller sites and talked with their engineers and developers? Were our engineers a part of those visits, or was it just county officials or admin people? talk to engineers. On the rezoning request, it states that staff approved it. Who? Staff approved it. SRA, regulatory, on May 7th, which was actually just stated that the final attached report does not address whether the district impact DRI is or is not in the best interest of host local government. Advisory and under no circumstances binding or host jurisdiction right to determine for itself. They're talking about Columbia. The appropriateness of development within its boundaries. Transmittal of this DRI report officially completes the DRI process. Fitting local government may pursue whatever final actions it deems appropriate regarding the proposed project. That's true. But it is encouraged to take materials presented in the DRI report. That's what I mean. A lot of thought. A lot of investigating. Already done a lot, I understand. But I think it requires more, and it requires more information. 7 billion.
Two executive session items. Vice Chairman Couch, I believe you have motions for those.
I make a motion to approve $17,000 to Joan Scott, parcel 060078D, $31,000 to David and Virginia O'Leary, parcel 067102, $28,700 to William and Andrea Greer, parcel 072B062, $5,600 to Marjorie Ansley, parcel 072B058, and $63,000 to Stanley Gerhanisch, parcels 067091A and 067091E, to obtain right-of-way and/or easements for the Harper Farm Road widening project.
Second.
Standard acquisition, 76% complete.
Questions? Motion on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries.
I make a motion to approve $3,400 to Nicholas Cherisuelo, parcel 073221, $3,625 to Bel Air Evans Associates LLC, parcel 072A361, $32,900 to Matthew George, parcel 072A001C, $50,000 to Janet Hull, parcel 072J063, $15,000 to Patrick and Julietta Sandoval, parcel 072240, to obtain right-of-way and/or easements for the Hereford Farm Road widening project.
Second. All standard, 78% complete.
Motion is second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.